of support to this organization. He holds the post of Secretary of the ISSMTCP. If you see your certificates, they're signed by him. He's done his undergraduate medical degree from Mumbai and then completed his dermatology from Australia and PhD in ocular pathology and lasers, again from Australia. His professional roles and affiliations, he's had a lot of them. I'm not going to read all of them, I don't have the time today. But among them are A4M, Bangkok, and he's been speaking at so many international conferences. He's the founding director of biotech. We also call him the mad scientist, by the way. He had and I'm not going to read all his publications and other things which he's got, but I like to say that we call him the mad scientist because even Harvard couldn't answer his question, so they threw him out of the stem cell group and said, you're not somebody who should be here. But he still carried on with his research. He does a lot of stem cell research, for those of you who don't know. He does a lot of research on trying to see how he can better the absorption of the nutraceuticals that we have. And today he runs, he's the founding director of a company called Biotech's Life Incorporated, which does a lot of development. He has a lab in the Genome Valley, which I have visited myself. I don't think many people have that opportunity. And through that lab, he has been able to bring out molecules in the nutraceutical space that we have not seen. So please welcome this morning Dr. Leroy Rebello. Leroy, 30 minutes. Leroy, 30 minutes, your time starts, and it'll end at 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, good morning. It's kind of early. Thank you, Dr. Lenny, and thank each and every one of you for allowing me to speak here. So, we're going to talk about mushroom. So, how many ate mushroom during the conference? Oh, did you like it?
Mushroom soup.
Yeah. So, the beauty of mushroom is, do you like it? Was it vegetarian? Huh? Okay, so it's a plant. Or was it animal? So mushroom is neither vegetarian, it's neither a plant nor an animal. It has a kingdom of its own. It's called kingdom fungi. And I thank all of you for, listening to me. I think I come from human being society. Okay. Okay, all? Okay, good. So we are not mushrooms, huh? Not mushroom heads. Good. I take the next slide. So I told you what are fungi. Now these are unicellular, multicellular. And mushrooms also synthesize vitamin D. So, but it's very important that the mushroom is also exposed to light or sunlight to synthesize vitamin D. Most of the mushrooms that you buy in the shop are button mushrooms in India. Now you get different types, portobellos and all that. But they do not have the synthesis of vitamin D because they are not exposed to the light. And the growing conditions are not there because once they start synthesizing vitamin D, they start developing colors. And they start becoming brownish, blackish, and people think they are going bad. But actually they are not bad. They have the vitamin D, like how when we have melanin, they also have certain types of pigment. Oh, from here. So you see, even National Geographic had even in April 2024 had an entire issue on mushrooms. And today mushroom is the new thing because the world is going smaller and smaller. I mean, the people are growing more and more. And there is more of veganism for leather. So mushrooms, people have started producing leather from mushrooms because the fibers in the mycelia are quite thick. I just want to show you a 2-minute video. You can play. How to play the video? Again, press.
My mission is to discover the language of nature, and I believe nature is intelligent.
There is a world under the earth, full of magic and mystery. It holds the consciousness of nature's connection to all living things.
You know, these mushrooms, they can heal you, they can feed you, they can kill you.
It's not like a vegetable, and it's not like an animal, but it's somewhere in between.
They support life, they convert life.
As you're walking, there's about 300 miles of fungi.
And they're every footstep that you take, and that's all over the world. The bulk of the organism is growing underground, and it's composed of these long threads called a mycelium.
Almost everyone knows about the computer internet. The mycelium shares the same network design.
It's amazing what we don't know about mushrooms. They really are a frontier of knowledge. You can filter water, you can create medicinal compounds almost on demand. They have incredible capacity to make things change very quickly. So I am super hopeful.
The psychedelic members of the mushroom kingdom are fascinating.
I have been a guide for around 350 psilocybin sessions.
The most glorious part was that it made me feel more comfortable with living because you're not afraid of dying.
We need to have a paradigm shift in our consciousness. What will it take to achieve that?
We can heal the planet. We can build the future. And our world is fantastic.
So you see, Alexander Fleming first brought fungi to the medicinal kingdom by the penicillin. And now penicillin is not only in the penicillin species of mushrooms. Many other mushrooms also produce penicillin. I'll show it to you. And that mushrooms you can add to your diet. So how do you get these medicinal properties out of these mushrooms while cooking? Because just like plants and animals, there's a way to cook mushrooms. So when you boil them, mostly you destroy all the medicinal properties. The right way to cook these mushrooms is to break the chitin level on top, on the mushroom surface, like the skin of the mushroom. How do you do that? You toss it in a pan, in a dry pan. Never add water, because mushroom itself is 98% water. So as the water evaporates, the chitin level breaks and that releases the aromas. This aroma actually contains your medicinal properties. So again, you can see the different species of fungi producing different types of antibiotics. But unfortunately, they only teach us penicillin. Okay, these are some publications. Turkey tail enhances lactobacillus bifidium. Dr. Sunita spoke a lot about the gut and about the bacterias, how the bacterias in the gut help you. Now, if you see, lactobacillus bifidobacterium is one of the very good commensals in the gut, and this is needed for us, and most of your probiotics contain lactobacillus bifidium. So this is the food for lactobacillus bifidium. So this is a specific prebiotic to enhance your probiotic and postbiotic that comes out. It also suppresses Clostridium species and Enterococcus species. Now you don't want too much of Clostridium growing in your gut, except which one? Clostridium butyricum, because Clostridium butyricum produces butyric acid, which helps in the brain. Okay, so these are some of the studies showing that the CD8 cells increase. So you give nowadays, there is a lot of turkey tail studies happening where you give turkey tail to breast cancer cells, and we have seen that a combination of turkey tail and Ganoderma, lucidium, helps decrease the breast cancer activity. Anybody recognizes this fellow? Yeah. So ergotamine. Now this ergotamine was actually given a bad name because of LSD. LSD comes from ergotamine. Okay, but traditionally ergotamine was used to, induce abortion, check menstrual bleeding and all that, uncontrollable. But unfortunately this is banned because of the production of LSD. So you can't access ergotamine. This fellow, he produces cyclosporin. Did you know cyclosporin came from a mushroom? We all thought cyclosporin, but of course today most of the cyclosporin is synthetic. But originally cyclosporin came from a mushroom. So my people who need cyclosporin, gradually I give them this mushroom to eat. And I tell them, gradually decrease your cyclosporin dosage. So I'm giving them a natural producer of cyclosporin. Or you give them this extract, a full extract. Whenever you go for a mushroom extract, always go for a full extract. What do you mean by full extract? Not only the mushroom, but also the mycelium. Because the mushroom is the fruiting body of the mycelium. So it's important to go for a full extract. Aspergillosis terris. Did you know this drug? How many people use this drug? It came from the mushroom. Penicillin species. Most of the Chinese restaurants, we get to eat oyster mushrooms. So, but what do? They boil it. So when you boil the oyster mushroom, you kill all the penicillin. So the best way to do it is to toss it. So remember, when you're eating mushroom, when you're eating oyster mushroom, toss it in the pan and add it last. So then you will get the right stuff. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. We all know about this yeast and why this yeast should be present in your probiotic. Steroids. Now, when you're talking about steroids, there are so many types of steroids that can be synthesized from the mushroom. What happens, if you noticed, our society, our culture always says mushrooms are poisonous, mushrooms are poisonous. Remember, don't touch them, don't eat them. We are brought up with that kind of a culture. Why are we brought up with that kind of culture? Because if you see, most of the mushrooms have these medicinal effects. Will you give your children to eat penicillin just for fun? You won't, right? So same way, if you eat some of these things, you may get some side effects. And that is the reason why you have actually stopped this. Spelling is wrong. Cordyceps. Spelling is wrong, okay? So Cordyceps sinensis. This mushroom, you know how this mushroom grows? This mushroom grows on the dead larva. So when larva of a fly die, the mushroom first attacks the immune system. Not immune system, the nervous system. It grows on the spinal cord. It's a fungal infection of the spinal cord. And when it dies, it pushes the brain out and becomes a mushroom. So this is an entire larva, what you can see. It's a worm. And here this is the mushroom that comes out. This is banned. This was a very good thing. The Chinese used it to win Olympics and then they banned it. This is found in the upper Himalayas and in Bhutan. And collection of this in India is prohibited. Only available through licensed dealers. So this is Cordyceps sinensis for you. What you grow in the lab is Cordyceps militaris. It is not as potent as Cordyceps sinensis. Okay, chaga mushroom. We all know about this woody mushroom, chaga tea. Chaga mushroom improves your immune system, and it also lowers your LDL. That's what the main function of chaga mushroom is. I'll just go through it fast. Okay, turkey tail. So because the mushroom looks like a turkey tail, it's called a turkey tail. And in this mushroom, the most interesting compound is polysaccharide K or PSK. Now what is PSK? PSK is, this is going to be the next big thing. That's why the world over people are growing mushrooms. Just like how we spoke about curcumin 15, 20 years back and talking about this, 10, 20 years ago, I mean in the future, you can record it, people will start talking about polysaccharide K. Polysaccharide K for cancer. Because this polysaccharide K decreases, causes the cancer cells to start dying, apoptosis. Grifolia mushroom species. This is very good for anti-inflammatory response. Now you give this when the person starts recovering from the cancer, in the recovery phase. So any person who start recovering, you'll start using this Grifolia species. Shiitake mushrooms. Okay, this is the most common edible mushroom generally present in Asia. Shiitake reduces cholesterol. So medical mycology is like an iceberg. What we are seeing is only the tip of the iceberg. There are many species and subspecies that are not yet discovered, and people are discovering them. That's what we are actually doing with medical mycology. So mushrooms have a lot of nutritional benefits. I'm going to go through this fast. You can see this is a nice plate of all the types: portobello, chicken of the woods, oyster, porcini, lion's mane, chestnut, king oyster, okay, enoki. So you must be eating all this in restaurants or in your home. And I showed you most of them have medicinal properties.
Who is in dark in color? Vitamin D.
We'll finish the presentation and then take it, okay? Okay, so nutritive value. Now, if you see what is the most common nutrition available in the mushroom? The most common nutrition available in the mushroom are amino acids. So most amino acids you can get by eating different types of mushrooms, because mushrooms grow on dead stuff. So high nitrogen content stuff. So what do they produce? They produce amino acids. So for the vegetarian people, having mushroom is a good source of protein. Okay, and of course you have all the minerals. You have vitamin K because and vitamin D. I'll just go through it fast because we don't have time and I want to cover much of the stuff. Streptomycin, also from Streptomycetes species of mushrooms. We've used streptomycin, right? Okay, so role of fungi in food. It's important when you ask me what kind of mushrooms to eat, have different types of mushrooms. Collecting mushrooms from the wild. Okay, when you collect mushrooms from the wild, it's important that you actually identify, is it a poisonous mushroom or not poisonous mushroom. Very few mushroom species are poisonous, but you never know when you will get it. So don't just pick out anything and eat. Generally what we find, white mushrooms are non-poisonous. Colored mushrooms are, so you have yellow, you have red and all that, they purple, they are a little bit poisonous. But again, unless you are 100% sure, don't just pick up anything and eat. Touching the mushroom, don't worry, the poison won't come through your skin. Okay, some people say, no, 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 don't touch. You can touch. Nothing will happen to you. Very rarely the poison will pass through your skin. Only by ingestion, the poison passes through your skin. Okay. So mushroom hunting in the wild, there's a small section on this. I'm just going through it fast because this is actually a 2-3 hour presentation. I just wanted to show so that how to identify cooking with mushrooms. Okay, this part, hallucinogenic mushrooms. Everyone told me, oh, you're going to Goa to talk mushroom. Can I have some? So I said, no, you can't, because as per the NDPS Act in India, all kinds of hallucinogenic mushrooms in India are not allowed. There's another place where hallucinogenic mushrooms are found in India. It's called Kodaikanal. So in Kodaikanal you get them. Now how do you identify them? They're very small mushrooms. You take them open and you break them with your finger and you see blue color. So that means that's a hallucinogenic mushroom producing psilocybin. Okay. Now the most drug studied is psilocybin, but there is also muscarine. There are many other compounds that fall in hallucinogenic mushroom category. Now psilocybin forms new connections in the brain. So there are psilocybin treatments in the US. Of course in India you can't do them because of it's not allowed, but in the US we do them. We can do them in Mexico, where you take a person through the psilocybin treatment and we put a 3-dimensional ECG on the brain and we find out areas where the person has certain blocks, and then we open those blocks by giving certain therapy. Okay. That's how the name came, magic mushrooms. Everyone must have heard of the word magic mushrooms. Okay, so you see so many different types of species of magic mushrooms are there. Bottle caps, golden, liberty. Okay, but there is penis envy, there is golden teachers. There are so many different types which I have not even mentioned here. So in 2020, you see the study done by Bora, showing that how psilocybin gets connected into psilocin. Now psilocin is available synthetically as a capsule. So when you're taking psilocin, it's different, and when you're taking psilocybin, it's different. It's just like your BHRT. How when you take natural progesterone and you take the synthetic progesterone, it's totally different. So the same way. So how do these mushrooms actually affect the brain? Brain is a neuroplastic organ. What do you mean by neuroplastic? It can form new connections physically. Now, what is a thought? Can anybody define a thought? A thought is an electrochemical reaction, right? So what is the electricity and what is the chemical? So the mushrooms produce certain neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters, 7 minutes, right? These neurotransmitters are the chemicals that actually rewire your brain. Along with that, you also have to go what they call it as a ceremony. In the olden days, the shaman used to do it. Now it's being done by the modern shaman, who they call doctors.
Who don't have an intention behind their practice.
So they tell you to think about certain things and break certain connections. Now once these connections are broken, the neurotransmitters go and cement it. So mushrooms actually physically affect the brain. You can see these are the studies, and mushrooms actually change the neural connection. So usually people who have PTSD, people who have trauma, people who have, you know, a lot of stuff going on in the brain, giving them a session would definitely help them. Even cancers, because everything starts in your brain. All diseases start in your brain. Once you start treating your brain, automatically your medicines will work better. Whether you use stem cell, whether you use whatever you use some big drugs, or you use exosome, or you use anything. If you don't believe it's going to work, it's not going to work. So unless you reprogram up here, then it will work. So short-term effects, and there are some long-term effects. Okay, so now you know dilatation of pupils, nystagmus, and all these are what we learnt in mushroom poisoning. But giving them in small doses is also medicinal, just like your botulinum toxin, correct? Botox. Botox is Clostridium poisoning, or botulinum poisoning. But giving the same botulinum in small doses is therapeutic. Okay, so what are some long-term effects you can see? So many of the people with depression suffer with this thought coming back of depression. You must have seen your patients, or those of you who suffer. So you take the tablet, you start feeling better. But when you do psilocybin session for a person who's going through a deep depression, the depression goes away and doesn't come back. He doesn't get the thought again. And that is what makes the difference. Okay, so how does it react? Definitely there are certain drugs, like certain plants like ayahuasca and all that, which you would tell them not to have when they are on mushroom, because it would interact. You would not have St. John's wort. Okay, if you are taking any psychiatric medicine, we would always first look it up if there is any drug-drug interaction, and gradually bring that down and then start them on these things. But again, you can't do this in India because it's regulated, it's not allowed. But you can do this in the United States. So you can practice in the United States, or you can practice in Mexico. Are hallucinating mushrooms addictive? Many people will ask you. No, if done the right way, no. Yes, anything can be addictive. Even life is addictive. That's why when you go to sleep, you wake up tomorrow. You want to live for something more. I would say, are they dependent? Can you become dependent on it? If you do it in the right way, absolutely no. There is no dependency that you can develop for these, unless done in the wrong way and abused. Okay, so are they addictive? So we've gone through the entire study. So we've started a line of mushroom extracts. I think we're working on them, and they will be available next year. It will take a year. And those of you who want this presentation can scan the QR code and you can get it. Thank you so much. I think I've stepped my time.
Yeah, let's have a big hand for Leroy. As usual, very, very awesome presentation. Maria.
Oh. Good, good.
She's waiting for you on top and you're going down.
Yeah, the step is a little...
So that's why we kept steps the other side.
Other side, okay. Thank you.
That is what happens to the best scientists. Always, they don't see where they walk. Especially in the morning. This is not the time for... He asked for this slot, by the way. He's best in the evening, okay? So you want to consult him, you should consult him after 8 p.m. Get the best advice. Never consult him in the morning.
Beautiful talk.
But awesome presentation as usual. Ladies and gentlemen, today I need to